Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with a hopefully quick knife overview. Today we're going to be looking at the Spyderco Spydiechef. I have carried this knife for one whole day now, so I'm obviously an expert at it now. I just wanted to give my initial impressions of this knife. I'm really excited about this, and some knives I get, and I'm like, man, how am I gonna review this thing? What is there to say about it? This one was very easy. So here's the box that it comes with, your standard Spyderco box. The details on the Spyderco Spydiechef, it features a 3.32 inch blade. It's going to be 7.78 inches overall. Closed, you're looking at 4.46 inches, and this weighs a very appropriate 3.8 ounces. As far as comparisons go, here's the Spydiechef compared to a small Sebenza. If I can balance it on the clip, it looks like that. To a large Sebenza, looks like that, and then finally to a Spyderco Native, looks like that. The Spydiechef, so it features a full flat ground LC 200N steel, which is optimized for saltwater use, if that's something you're looking for. This knife is going to be made in Taiwan. So realizing that Spyderco has 3 different factories, one in Taiwan, one in Golden, Colorado, one in Seiki City, Japan. The Taichung factory, historically, from what I can see, although you're like, Taiwan, whatever. I don't know. Like, obviously, I'd rather have it say Golden, Colorado. The Taiwan factory, the Taiwanese factory, as far as Spyderco goes, they put out some amazing blades. Some people even say that that is the factory that puts out the best ones. So, keep that in mind. But again, I was a little bit hesitant about that as well. The clip on here, so this is actually an aftermarket clip. I bought this Spydiechef on the secondary market. This is the titanium clip. The standard one is going to be that wire clip, which is not a bad thing at all. I actually do like wire clips, and they're coming back. Like they're kind of cool again. This is ambidextrous, but only tip up carry. Another thing, yeah, this one actually does have aftermarket Micarta scales on it, so we'll get into that in a second. But I do have the original titanium one as well. The when I you see this knife and it definitely looks very unique, kind of the sweeping blade and how it kind of that wave look to it. But and you hear Spydiechef, you're like, oh, it's for food prep, which certainly you can use this for food prep. There's nothing that prohibits you from doing that. But the actual design it's actually made to mimic the balance and precision of chef knives, but translated to the EDC world. So I think that that's very unique about this. And when you pick one of these up for the first time, it feels really, really good in your hand. I mean, it's such a thin knife. Like, compare this to a large Sebenza, or even a small Sebenza for that matter. It's a very thin knife, but it's tall this way. So that's, again, that feature that I always kind of look for in a knife, whereas the small Sebenza, it's great. This one's in a class of its own, but you definitely have that height there in the handle that gives you a lot of confidence when you're wielding this. My initial impression of this when I picked it up, and I don't know what it was, probably a multitude of factors, but this is the most Spyderco I've ever held, and I really do like it. As I said, there are some mods to this one. It does have a micarta scale on the show side, as well as the titanium pocket clip. But as far as the micarta goes, I'm actually starting to get away from full frame titanium knives. I don't know if it's just because of my experience with the Berg Iron Pup, but even talking to my buddy Devin, like, we were looking at a knife today, and we're like, oh man, that'd be awesome to get the full titanium. And then we both it was actually the TRM Atom, which we both ended up picking up, so that'll be really cool. But I think, like, once you think about it, you're like, wait, that's going to be a really heavy handle. Like, I do like what micarta or carbon fiber does for the balance and the weight of a knife, and realizing that micarta is definitely a cheaper option. The difference being, carbon fiber is essentially, epoxy and carbon fiber. So it's woven carbon fiber with epoxy and then they apply a ton of pressure. This is going to be fiberglass, but it's the same process. It's just a little bit weaker, but it's negligible from what I can tell. So I really do like that upgrade to it. I thought maybe when I got this thing, I was like, man, I'll throw it back to OEM, but I love what having half of a Micarta scale does for the weight and feel of this knife. And similarly to the Strider versus XM18 camp, some people would, argue that, oh, well, having 2 titanium scales is stronger than 1 titanium, 1 micarta. I've never, nor have I ever seen anybody blow out a micarta or a carbon fiber or a G10 scale. I really haven't. If you have, please comment below, because that will change everything for me. But until that, I'm gonna go with, what's most comfortable in my hand. My next observation with this knife, so again, it only has a 3.32 inch blade, but I've kind of decided that this is the smallest knife I can tolerate or enjoy. I mean, certainly I do like my small Sebenza, small Nkosi, etc., but I don't know, like I kind of feel like I was forced into liking the size of those knives when, after I've, tried probably 100 knives at this point, I think that this is the smallest that I like that, 3.5 inch knife is the smallest knife that's enjoyable or comfortable for me to carry, and a lot of it has to do with the handle height. If the handle height's there, I can handle it, and I actually really do like it. As I said before, this does have super thin handles on it, but they're very tall and super comfortable. Maybe that's a direct result of them copying chef knives, which obviously have to be comfortable because people are using them all day every day, but they knocked it out of the park. My next observation with this knife that I'm a huge fan of is just the sliciness of the blade. I mean, traditionally, I really do like this sheep's foot kind of sweeping blade design, similarly to my Nkosi and Singo that I have. But, like some people will also make the argument that like, oh, well, a knife like this will pierce better. I have never pierced, like I don't know what people are piercing, but I mean, even, whether it's you're cleaning deer or whatever, there's never been anything that I need to pierce that I'm not just being stupid like oil drums, that something like this blade shape can't pierce. Like I don't know. Again, if you know of anything that this thing can't pierce and it's a normal task, please let me know. But for the most part, like I really do like that sweeping design, not overly stabby. I cannot say enough good things about the thickness of this blade and just the ratios. They did such a great job. They didn't try to throw a 1-inch thick blade on this thing. Like this knife as it sits right here, the tasks that it was designed to do, it will excel at. This thing is a great slicer, and that's what it's made to do. But if you needed to, stab or poke something, you can get by just fine. The next observation upon picking this thing up, and what kind of sets this apart from more traditional Spydercos, is this liner lock. And I really do wish that Spyderco made more liner locks. The action on it, again, this is definitely a user. It's kind of beat up. I did take this apart just to kind of check it out. It is running on washers, but I was really impressed with the action. Like always, this thing super fidgety, fun to flick with your pointer finger, or flicking it with your thumb, or that kind of like slow release to open it. Like this thing is just a joy to operate, and I love just like the simplistic design. Like I mean, the lock bar, like it's simple. This is all you need and all that I could ever want. So very impressed with that. This thing is addictive and super fidgety. The next kind of refreshing observation I had were the barrel spacers. I love this. They're not ornate, they're not overly built. They literally cover up the screw to keep the two sides of the blade together, and that is all you need. And the result of that is such a well-balanced knife. Like right where I wrap my finger around, that's the center of gravity on this thing, and I attribute that to, in some part to these barrel spacers. They didn't throw a huge backspacer in here, ornate, huge lanyard hole. They just kind of incorporated the lanyard hole into the scales. That's really cool. I love the back end of this knife. It's so simple, elegant, and useful. Absolutely love it. The one kind of downside for this knife, and one of the things that I noticed, again, huge hands right here. So this knife, and I'm cautious to say that it's a con for it. It was just an observation. So because of how narrow this knife is, which again, I'll take this all day over a fat Tootsie Roll of a knife for sure. When I grip it, it does have the tendency to roll in my hand. So again, we're great with the height of this. You have really good purchase with it. There is no jimping, but honestly, this thing is like so wieldy. I don't really feel the need to have jimping on it. But you know, if I really do bear down on this, it has the tendency to roll in my hand due to how, you know, just skinny it is. So something worth noting. And that concludes my overview of the Spyderco Spydiechef. The MSRP on this one, from what I can tell, is about $250. But again, like all people that buy Spydercos, they throw $200 at this thing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I could have got a Strider or something. Not to say that this is anything like a Strider, two completely different animals, but I think, I mean, even more so than the Shaman, this is my favorite Spyderco that I've gotten. And I have, I mean, I have quite a few Spydercos. I haven't tried a lot of like the weirder ones. Certainly this is my first one out of their Taiwan factory, but if you have not, pick this thing up. Like you can, there's great deals to be had on the secondary market, or this is one that I would not hesitate to, you know, buy brand new. I think that this is one of my favorite knives that I've tested in quite some time. So appreciate y'all tuning in. We will see you next time.